Manhattan Borough President. Howdy. How we doing? So what did you say when we first met? What did you say? Bi-state cooperation. It's possible. New York and New Jersey can actually get along, right? Good afternoon. My name's Kevin O'Toole, and we are excited to be here. This is a game changer. This is one of the largest projects that the Port Authority has undertaken in a 103-year history. And we're here to really kick off this program to replace this 73-year-old structure. 1950. So, just to give everybody some perspective, we had some really good staff going to the archives, and we found an article from December 16th, 1950, from the New York Times that was reporting on the actual opening of December 15th of 1950, and it says, "New bus terminal has a smooth start. Despite many sightseers, all operations move rapidly, and staff is courteous." Port Authority, staff is courteous, they said in 1950. Now, here's what's important to set the stage. In 1950, which was then the largest bus terminal in the country, everything about the new Port Authority bus terminal was expressed yesterday in superlatives. The crowd at rush hour were moving in an orderly procession throughout the immense concourse, and the buses rolled to a bumper-to-bumper stream, handling and unloading masses of travelers. Now, let me get my glasses, Rick, for this one. The last paragraph by the superintendent says, as he observed the steady influx of buses at the rush hour and their quick distribution of loading positions, Mr. Webb said, "It will have to get a lot worse before we have any trouble." Since 1950, 73 years ago, it's gotten better, and now it's gotten worse. Despite the Band-Aids and despite the efforts to rebuild and go from 1950 and fix in 1960 and 63 and 66 and 1980, we have this. It is time to turn the page. It is time to spend $10 billion and get a new terminal. It is time to get a new terminal. New York City deserves a world-class, state-of-the-art bus terminal. And Borough President, this is bi-state cooperation. This is bi-state cooperation. Over 500 meetings have taken place, 500. When Rick and I got here in 2017, we knew one of the priorities. We knew one of the priorities was to get a new bus terminal. I don't think we knew how difficult it was to say from there to here, but literally, Assemblyman, 500 meetings later, everybody came together. Community boards, elected leaders, shareholders, stockholders, friends, riders. We are all on the same page. I have to have a special thank you to one person, and you remember Senator Weinberg from Bergen County. Senator Weinberg. I spoke to Senator Weinberg today, and I said when we put a shovel in the ground, Rick, Senator Weinberg has to be there with us. But she said she has great faith in us, but she gave this admonition. She goes, do it and do it quickly. I said, I will pass that word to Rick Cotton. But I do want to thank Senator Weinberg, who's been at the forefront on the Jersey side of making sure this thing happens. But I want to thank all of the leaders, Republican, Democrat, Independent, New York, New Jersey, for this very special, transformative moment. And I want to thank one individual person who's going to shepherd this and make this from a blueprint to a reality. We have one person who's going to make this thing happen. That's our amazing, energetic, dynamic executive director, Rick Cotton. Please welcome Rick Cotton.
Well, thank you, Kevin. No problem. This really is an exciting day. It's been a long time coming. An enormous amount of work, as the chairman said, has gone into it. So we're here today to celebrate an enormously important milestone as we advance the development of the Midtown bus terminal. The release of the draft environmental impact statement by the Federal Transit Administration puts us within reach of final federal approval for the project later this year. Before I jump into a discussion about our plans for the replacement terminal, the progress we've made, where we're headed. I'm going to acknowledge quite a number of people who are here today, and it's really important from my perspective to do that because without their help at various places and various times, we would not be here today and we would not be able to move this project forward. So let me begin with Michael Collada, the Regional Administrator of the Federal Transit Administration, and I see his predecessor, Steve Goodman, in the house. The FTA is running the environmental process on this project, and their hard work is critical in terms of moving this to the finalization of the review and our ability to move forward. Kevin Corbett, President and CEO of New Jersey Transit, longtime partner. He will be on the program momentarily. New York State Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel, appreciate your help. New York State Assemblyman Tony Simone. Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. New York City Councilman Eric Botcher. Rob Gottheim, Chief of Staff to Representative Gerald Nadler, Jessica Chait, Christine Berthay, Bert Lazarin, and members of Community Board 4 who we have worked with intensely as we have put final plans in place. Gary LaBarbera, Commissioner of the Port Authority, but also importantly, President of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York. His members will actually build the project we're about to discuss. Carlos Azura, President of the New York Building Congress. His members will be the construction companies, subcontractors, et cetera, who will also carry this out. And then I want to acknowledge a number of organizations who are here, been critical: Hudson Yards, Hell's Kitchen Alliance, the Times Square Alliance, and Garment District Alliance. The Regional Plan Association, the Subcontractors Trade Association, and the Real Estate Board of New York. So let's give all of them a big hand. And I also want to thank my colleagues, Derek Utter, the Chief Development Officer of the Port Authority, Steve Plate and Alan Reese, heading up major capital projects, and Diane Eller. Where's Diane? Who's Director of Tunnels, Bridges, and Terminals, and who will be responsible for operating our new program. So let's start briefly with a history. The chairman referred to it briefly. When the Port Authority bus terminal opened in 1950, it was celebrated as a miracle of transportation. But time, as we all know, has not been kind to the Port Authority. The bus terminal has become a poster child for failed legacy infrastructure that desperately needs to be replaced. Today, we say loudly, a new day is coming. We are bringing to the bus terminal project the same perspective that we have brought to our airport transformation projects. Transportation hubs are gateways. They symbolize the region to visitors and residents alike. Our goal is to build a world-class bus terminal that is worthy of this region. Best-in-class functionality, cutting-edge technology, inspiring civic architecture, supportive of the surrounding community. So our mission, as we set out to build a new best-in-class 21st century bus terminal, we have been laser-focused on two constituencies: the bus commuters, who will use the facility, and the surrounding community, who will experience it and deserve to receive community benefits from a major infrastructure project of this size. Let's talk about the project for a moment. The project is going to construct 3 major new buildings. It's going to be larger than the current structure. The 3 components are outlined in the rendering up on the screen. First, a new main terminal building represented in yellow between 8th and 9th Avenue. It will be on the footprint of the existing terminal. Second, a new staging and storage facility between 9th and 10th Avenue represented in blue. And third, new ramps, brand new ramps, represented in red between 10th and 11th Avenue, that will connect buses directly into the Lincoln Tunnel without a bus ever needing to touch or clog up community streets on its way to or from the bus terminal. We're going to build these buildings in 2 construction phases. In the first phase of construction, which will run roughly from the end of this year through 2028, we will build the ramps and storage and staging facility. I also might mention we will also deck over a large part of the below-grade Dyer Avenue cut that the community, by the way, has complained about for years. Those deck overs will be used during construction for staging and temporary bus operations, but when the construction is complete, they will be turned into green parkland. A specific request from the community. In phase 2 of the construction, once we have finished building the storage and staging facility and the ramps, we will tear down the old bus terminal and build a new one. During phase 2, which will run roughly from 2029 to 2032, the newly constructed staging and storage facility, the blue facility there, will be utilized as a temporary bus terminal. Finally, at the top of the rendering in light blue, there are 2 commercial towers to be built probably in the 2030s, once the bus terminal construction is either complete or in its final stages, and all of this will be on Port Authority-owned land. That means no eminent domain, no taking of private property, and we will complete that project solely on Port Authority land. So what is it that we're going to build? A wholly new Midtown bus terminal. $10 billion, world-class facility, 2.1 million brand new square feet in the main terminal. The new bus terminal is sized to keep up with the demand projected over the next 20 to 30 years. It will be a best-in-class facility with cutting-edge technology. It will be focused on an electric bus future with an emphasis on net zero greenhouse gas emissions. It will reflect world-class design to ensure that both bus riders and the community find the building appealing, inspiring, and beneficial, and, by the way, a place where they actually want to be. The bottom line is this: we're committed to taking the busiest bus terminal in the world and transforming it into the best bus terminal in the world. That is our goal. As I said, we're bringing to the terminal project the same perspective we have brought to our airport transportation projects. Transportation hubs are gateways. They symbolize the region to visitors and residents alike. We will include inspiring and appealing civic architecture and public art. And by the way, we have brought in Norman Foster's architecture design firm, Foster and Partners, to design our new terminal. One of Foster's early design innovations was a proposed closure of 41st Street to allow construction of a multi-story atrium entrance from 8th Avenue, creating a visually inspiring, airy, and light-filled main hall with vastly improved wayfinding and ease of gate access for commuters. We will preserve the direct connection to 12 subway lines, and we will offer iconic and appealing concessions options that have become a signature of Port Authority facilities, and we will ensure that the concessions serve both bus commuters and the surrounding community. Rather than a fortress that fences the community out, we will build outward-facing concessions that are inviting and cater to the Hell's Kitchen community and other communities around the bus terminal. So a picture is worth 1,000 words. What you have on the screen is a picture of the 41st Street entrance to the bus terminal as you see it today. Here is the 41st Street entrance as it will be tomorrow. Quite a difference. Here, you see the picture of the subway entrance today. It shows the dark and dilapidated, low-ceiling approach to entering the bus terminal from the subway. Here is a rendering of the future subway entrance with the multi-story atrium as we currently envision it. In the new building, our proposed plan incorporates the lesson learned in our airport designs. High ceilings, light and airy atmosphere, riveting, appealing, inspiring public art installations. We have modeled our design efforts on spaces from the new LaGuardia, from the new Terminal A at Newark Liberty, the Moynihan Train Hall, and the main concourse at Grand Central. A new age in the design of the Midtown bus terminal. Frankenstein meets Cinderella. In today's world, as I briefly referenced, successful infrastructure projects must listen to the community. That's exactly what we have done here. In response, let me tell you about the changes in the new design as we originally announced it to the one that is analyzed in the draft environmental impact statement. On the operational side, the Midtown bus terminal proposes to move curbside intercity buses off the community streets and into the terminal. Our design will also move idling commuter buses waiting to enter the terminal inside the storage and staging facility instead of clogging city streets. And of course, I have mentioned the outward-facing concessions and retail as well as new green space. But the proposed community benefits, responsive to the requests of the community, come at an increased cost. The Port Authority will provide a majority of the $10 billion in funding that the new facility will require. We are well along in the application process for a federal loan. We need to continue our ongoing discussions with the City of New York to reach an agreement on the financing vehicle that was successfully used to build the Moynihan Train Hall, namely the contribution of pilot payments associated with the developments we will build above the new terminal in the 2030s to help defray the added costs of the new community-oriented features. Today's release of the draft environmental impact statement is a critical and major step in advancing the project. It triggers a 45-day comment period that will run from February 2nd through March 18th. 4 public hearings will be held over February 20th through 22nd. We look forward to working with the FTA and completing their NEPA process, and we hope to begin construction late this year or early next year. In conclusion, we are at long last replacing the functionally obsolete facility that we're standing in, and we're replacing it with a magnificent terminal for the future, in the service of bus riders and in the service of the community. This major infrastructure project, I believe, is unique in the extent of the support that both the users of the facility have enunciated, as well as the local elected officials and surrounding community leaders who we will hear from shortly. I want to thank again everyone who has worked so hard with us to get to today. Thank you.
Please welcome New Jersey Transit President and CEO Kevin Corbett.
Thank you, and Kevin and Rick, Kevin, you talked about going back to 1950, and Rick and I were talking earlier today, and I think if you look back at, think of the vision of the Port Authority that was so famous when the Port Authority this is before, think of it, before Eisenhower was even in office and came up with the interstate highway system. So you're going back to the late 40s when they opened it in 1950. And these are the kind of visionary for the region that the Port Authority had. The first container ship, first container terminal, Ideal X, was over in Port Newark. Long before we set the pattern for the whole world in this region. And the Port Authority was really the crucible for a lot of that. So Rick, very near and dear to our heart, both personally and certainly for New Jersey Transit. I think when this was built, think of, you look at the growth of this region and it being the center of global commerce. New Jersey population in 1950 was about 4.8 million. And today, you talk about, Kevin, you talk about outgrowing this building. Today, New Jersey's population is 9.3 million and growing. So, almost double the population since this was built. So it is way past time to really to build a new terminal. And I think, if you look, most people aren't aware that actually more people, a lot of people know us for New Jersey Transit Rail, but actually we move more people by bus than by rail. And I think we're by far the largest user of this terminal. I think we're about 85% roughly of the throughput of the passengers that come through the terminal every day. And it's amazing the volume and the operations, and kudos to our ops people and yours, Rick, for being able to move what we do as efficiently as we do, but we're clearly, beyond the limits. But people say, well, what about ridership post-pandemic? Our ridership right now into New York today is around 80%, and I think a lot of that is due to Fridays. But overall for us, intrastate, we're at approximately 90% overall, and many of our peak period trips are actually depending which routes you're on, or even at higher than the pre-COVID levels. You certainly see that Jersey City, Hoboken, for example. So I have no doubt that in a few years, I think as office rates, I think we know in New York, the office rates are not coming back, the occupancy rate not quite the same as we see elsewhere in the country or even internationally. But to me, that's a blip on the radar screen. Give it a few years together with the population growth, transit-oriented development. Anybody who's been in New Jersey has seen the real explosion of development along our bus routes and our rail routes. And I have no doubt within a few years that we'll be not only at pre-pandemic levels, but will exceed it. And I think that's going to happen sooner than a lot of people anticipate. I would have to say this, Kevin, you referred to it, and Rick, that number of meetings. New Jersey Transit's been involved with its 500 meetings. It's incredible, though, the collaboration and the working partnership that evolved over the years. And really want to give a big shout out to the Port Authority team. Steve Plate, Alan, and the rest. Really phenomenal job, great collaboration. So I want to certainly thank everyone at the Port Authority. And I think, as you put it, Rick, we share one common goal, and that's delivering the best possible travel experience for all our customers. Would say about the record of decision, it is an incredibly important event. This is really significant. And I think a big shout out does go to our partners at the FTA. Certainly, Steve, Mike, not just what you're doing here today by getting this EIS out in record time, unprecedented. People, not government. You guys show how things can really get done. And that goes everywhere for the region, from 2nd Avenue subway to our Portal Bridge. You look at the projects that are going on, this region, what the FTA churns out is 40% of the entire nation. So huge job, really big shout out to our friends at the FTA. As the full EIS process proceeds, we'll certainly look forward to the schedule, and I know for the community as well, Jessica, how important, a proper, all the proper hearings going through the EIS. So we really make sure that it stands up to be ironclad by the time when we finally get through the process, something we certainly very much appreciate. So I think with that, I know we got a lot of other speakers, so I'll let you move on to the next, Brad. But again, this is very exciting, and thanks to everyone, particularly Port Authority and FTA, for getting us all here today.
Please welcome New York State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel. Proud to represent this neighborhood. It's good to see New Jersey and New York cooperating this morning on this important project. And to my colleagues in labor and the community board and the bids, and of course my elected colleagues, I want to thank you for your support. I have a story. When I first joined the New York State Senate, one of the first meetings I attended was with Congressman Nadler and Senator Weinberg when we talked about the innovative idea of building in place for the Port Authority. At the time, it was said it could not be done, and we've come so far. So thank you for your innovation and for your cooperation and dialogue that you've had with local elected officials and the local community. And I just want to say also that, 1950, that was a long time ago. I mean, Bing Crosby was at the top of the music charts. I Love Lucy was the most popular TV show. And this terminal has been the subject of a lot of mockery, probably since then. One comedian said it was the single worst place on planet Earth. It's been called Hell on Earth, but that gives hell a bad name. And we're going to change that. We're going to change that with community participation, with the engagement that we've come to expect from the Port Authority as we've laid this plan out. It is the single busiest terminal for buses in the entire world, 6,000 bus trips a day, and 200,000 people traveling through here. So New Yorkers and New Jerseyans deserve better, and they will get better with this they will get what they deserve with this new terminal. We're going to have separate waiting areas for buses. That means buses will no longer have to idle outside, helping with traffic flow and our air quality in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood, which is so stifling at times. We're going to have new green spaces, which this section of the city desperately needs. And the renovations are going to make the surrounding streets safer for pedestrians and bikers. Through this new terminal project, we're going to have the opportunity to transform this section of Midtown into a place where people will want to visit, live, and work and relax, not just for commuters to rush through. And I'm excited that we're all here today to recognize this project and this important step with tomorrow's draft environmental impact statement. And let me say again, getting input from the community is going to be one of the most important things we can do as government and public officials to make sure that we are serving our constituents, and it's a great way to make sure that everyone is heard. So again, I want to welcome Community Board 4 in particular. They have joined us in every effort to make this terminal what it will be and what it should be in the future. When we get those commuter and intercity buses off of our streets. A round of applause for that effort. Clean our air, reduce carbon emissions, and get people on mass transit. That's the story here today. Thank you very much.
Please welcome New York State Assemblyman Tony Simone.
Today's an exciting day for Midtown and the Port Authority. I look at this eyesore from my window, literally on 505 West 37th Street. And I talked about it earlier, what I was doing today, to my husband, Jason, and he said, what were they thinking the way they built that thing? We see those trucks, buses backed up constantly on the street. The side streets are a mess. Where's the trees? I mean, what the hell? And Community Board 4 had that forward-thinking vision of how to make Port Authority integrated with the neighborhood. And the Port Authority, to their credit, the Kevins and the Jersey Kevin and the Port Authority Kevin met with them constantly to have the vision of what the community really wants. And there's no doubt about it. It's going to be one of the biggest infrastructure projects in the coming days. And I know with labor building it right out my window, it will be safe and it'll be an amazing new Port Authority. I mean, just look around. It's hard to believe this is in New York City, right? And you want to beat Penn Station to being an amazing transportation hub, right? As soon as we can get it built. And I'm so looking forward to seeing that construction out my window, so looking forward to actually seeing the buses off the street, and I'm so happy that the community was specifically involved in what we wanted to make it a better streetscape, to ensure that we're not polluting in the streets, to making sure the side street is actually inviting to the community. So I look forward to it. It's a big day that we're releasing the EIS today, and I can't wait till the city comes along, because we know we're all going to work together like we've worked on so far, and to the Building Congress, and to everyone else that's part of this effort. I am so excited about the new Port Authority because this is still the greatest city in the world. We need our transportation hubs to be just as great.
Please welcome Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine.
Assemblymember, the actual competition right now between Penn Station and the Port Authority Bus Terminal is for the title of most neglected transit hub in desperate need of total reconstruction. Unfortunately, the Port Authority Bus Terminal has achieved that title. But we're going to change that because we're going to take the heaviest, most trafficked bus terminal in the world, and we're going to make it the best bus terminal in the world. To my friend Rick Cotton, great work on this. Chair O'Toole, President Corbett, amazing bi-state cooperation. Maybe there's another contentious bi-state transportation policy issue that we could solve here today. I'm not sure what that might be. We'll meet on that afterwards. It is impossible to overstate the scale of this project, the importance of this project. This will be bigger than the reconstruction of LaGuardia Airport. But it's being done in the middle of a dense urban neighborhood. And that adds immeasurably to the complexity of the project. And the Port Authority could have done this in a much more limited way, with a much more limited budget, and it would have not achieved the goals that this community set out. It would not have taken intercity buses off the street. It would not have created new green space, new parkland. It would not have activated all the exterior for a more healthy urban retail experience. And we have a bigger vision because the Port Authority listened. And now it's incumbent upon us to get this done. This is not actually the groundbreaking. This is the presentation of a compelling, inspiring vision that must get built. We need to get this financed. And this is doable. We can get the financing done here. But until we do, that work remains undone. So is everyone here committed to get this project financed? Yes, we are. Gary LaBarbera, how many jobs on the line here? 8,000 jobs. This is not only a transportation project, this will be an economic engine for New York City at a moment when we need it. Let's get this built. Let's show New Jersey and New York can work together. Let's make a better future for the West Side. Thank you, everybody.
Please welcome New York City Councilman Eric Bottcher.
Thank you. If the happiest place on earth is Disneyland, the least happy place on earth might possibly be the Port Authority bus terminal. But we are here to change that, and I am so excited about today's announcement because we've been, for several years, meeting about this over and over and over again with the Port Authority, with my colleagues, with Community Board 4, and I don't think most New Yorkers know that this is happening. I think New Yorkers are going to be thrilled when they hear that the Port Authority is being totally replaced, because although it's so important to New Yorkers, it is one of the most aesthetically unpleasing buildings to be constructed in New York, probably in the last 100 years. It's one of the most confusing places to enter from a wayfinding standpoint. When Leilani met me at the door today and directed me to the press conference, I thought, that's the first time that anyone's ever helped me find out where to go in the Port Authority bus terminal. We're going to replace this station with a station that's bright, soaring ceilings, dining, retail. We got to make sure the bowling alley stays in here, right? Stays in here. And I want to thank the Port Authority for working with Community Board 4 and the residents of the neighborhood to make sure that our priorities were included. Getting the intercity buses off the street, expanding green space in our neighborhood, making sure that the community is part of the design process so we can ensure that this is not a facility that we're just okay with having in the community, but making it something that we're glad to having in the community. Not just a place where you have to be to travel, a place where you actually want to be. This is part of our movement as a society and as a country away from car-centric transportation. Since the advent of the automobile, we built our transportation system around the automobile, around single individuals in cars. And if you look at the tunnel traffic here during rush hour, when our community in Hell's Kitchen is clogged with traffic, with exhaust fumes, with honking and noise pollution, you've got one person behind the wheel of most cars. Let's make it an enjoyable experience to take buses into New York City. That's what we've got to do. And the best part of this station is built union. Thanks, everybody.
Please welcome Robert Gottheim, Chief of Staff to U.S. Representative Gerald Nadler.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry that the congressman couldn't be here. He is en route on the train on Amtrak coming back from Washington. But in behalf of him, I wanted to thank Chairman O'Toole and Rick Cotton, Executive Director of the Port Authority, and everybody at the Port Authority. This has been a long and winding road to get here today. Looking back and preparing remarks for today, I was looking back at some of the news clippings and other articles about it, and we haven't always agreed. But you must give credit where credit is due, and the Port Authority listened. Rick very much listened. Kevin, you listened. That the status quo back in 2016, 2015 wasn't going to work. The Port Authority went back and said, we're going to listen to the community. We're not going to do eminent domain. I know you've heard from all the speakers, but we can't stress this enough. No eminent domain. There was a church that was going to be taken. That's not going to happen. We weren't going to get the intercity buses off the streets. That's going to happen today. When you look at the streets here in Hell's Kitchen, they're very much clogged. We want to take these buses off the streets. We want them to come into the terminal. We also want a terminal that is going to be beautiful, that is reflective of New York. Obviously, this facility isn't, but it will be, just like the airports. When you go to LaGuardia Airport today, the terminal is beautiful. So we know that the Port Authority can build beautiful designs, and we know that it's going to happen here. So thank you to Community Board 4. Thank you to all the advocates. I know many are in this room for getting us here today. It's been a long road, but we will be better. New York will be better. We're almost there. We need the financing, and I know we're going to have good news hopefully soon on that regard. Today is the start of the draft EIS and the vision plan. But we're going to be there very, very soon. We'll have the announcement of the record of decision soon, and then hopefully shovels in the ground starting in later this year. So thank you for everybody. Thank you to Labor, and happy to be here on behalf of the Congressman. Thank you.
Please welcome Jessica Chait, Chair, Manhattan Community Board 4.
Thank you. Thank you all who are here, who have gathered, and for those who have spoken. As you have heard, our neighborhood has been overwhelmed by commuter and long-distance buses for years, if not decades. And so it is encouraging that the Port is making such a critical investment in this important mass transit hub, in taking steps to better and begin restitching Hell's Kitchen, bringing us back together. And we join all of you in commemorating this important milestone. And yet, as you've heard, this is still in draft, and there remain still many issues to be resolved and worked out. Manhattan Community Board 4 looks forward to continuing to lift up the voices and experiences of residents, as well as local businesses and community stakeholders, to resolve those issues which have long plagued our streets and our air. It is an exciting and transformational opportunity that we must get right. We look forward to working together with the port and, frankly, all of you in the community to further refine and improve the proposed plan, and we are excited for what lies ahead. Thank you.
Please welcome Gary LaBarbera, President of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you all. So I'd like to make a couple of comments, and I'll keep them as brief as possible, and I'd like to make those comments through two separate lenses. First, as a commissioner of the Port Authority, I want to acknowledge our chairman and executive director, Kevin O'Toole and Rick Cotton. This is an outstanding team that we have. I also want to acknowledge all of our Port Authority staff here. And frankly, I want to acknowledge, very important to me as a building trades leader and a commissioner, our Port Authority police that stand the watch every day, keeping our facilities safe and protecting communities. So thank you all for what you do. I want to say that it is one of the greatest honors I've had in my 30-year career to serve as a commissioner on the Port Authority, and the reason I say that is because of the level of collaboration between New York and New Jersey. And it is largely because of the leadership from New York and New Jersey and my fellow commissioners. The real mission is to get things built and make a better experience, a safer experience for all communities through our facilities, and I'm proud to say that we endeavor at this each and every day, and I think we are accomplishing tremendous things. The second lens I'd like to look through this as the president of the New York City Building and Construction Trades Council, and that is the jobs perspective. As you've heard, many comments have been made, and I want to again acknowledge all my colleagues, my elected officials, and community and business with us today. This project will be a $10 billion project creating 8,000 unionized construction jobs. Assemblyman Simone said he's looking forward to looking out the window and seeing union construction being commenced here because he knows it will be safe. And let me say one thing from the perspective of the building trades. This project will be built with the finest, most highly trained and skilled tradesmen anywhere in North America. I can guarantee that this project will be built right, it will be built safe, and the contractors, frankly, that will be working on this and subcontractors are, again, among the finest in the nation. So I'm very confident in saying that this will be a fantastic, productive, efficient project, and I think the only way that you can really describe something such as this is that this is visionary, innovative, transformative, and the point must be made, this will be an economic engine for New York because those construction jobs will lead to many other jobs, a multiplying factor, not only in other communities, but here, right in this community as well. So I'm very excited about today. It's a great announcement, and I want to thank you all very much, everyone that's been involved in this process, for making this happen. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Carlo A. Cicera, President of the New York Building Congress.
Thank you. Gary, I always get to follow you. It's like the hardest but yet most rewarding moment. Everything has been said. I will not repeat it. Just a couple of comments. First of all, Mr. Chairman, this is a big deal. This really is for you and your board and the one and only Rick Cotton, and I say that really, the one and only Rick Cotton, to be able to bring together the diversity of two states and to get all my friends in government from the West Side together. This really is a new West Side story. It is a new moment. It is a time when, if we all took just a second, you have to do this, close your eyes. Everybody here, you got to close your eyes and think about what the West Side of Manhattan will look like in 2035. Gateway, high-speed rail, a new Port Authority bus terminal with parks and green space, new buildings, a new train station, a great place to live, work, visit, and create tomorrow. That's what infrastructure investment does. It's not just putting dollars on bricks and mortar or tracks or airports. Infrastructure invests in people. It invests in communities. It invests in lives. It's why the bipartisan infrastructure law that many of us worked on, but Jerry Nadler really led the charge on before it was cool to talk about bipartisan infrastructure, is not just rebuilding roads and tunnels and highways and bus terminals, it's rebuilding lives. And what you today at the Port Authority are doing, and really all the team behind the work that the chairman and the executive director are bringing forward, is rebuilding lives. You're rebuilding communities. You're bringing communities back together. And you're saying that if New Jersey and New York and the folks on the west side of Manhattan, who are, not the most shy, reserved people out there, can actually come together and say, we're going to do this, we're going to bring everyone together as one, we're going to build union, we're going to work with the federal government and our partners in Washington, and wow, we are going to create a new West Side Story. I thank you on behalf of all of our businesses, our engineers, architects, and contractors who are going to be working here in a few months. Thank you, everybody.
That concludes our program. The chairman of the Port Authority and the executive director will be taking questions from the podium in 10 minutes.